It mean to get the backstory? It means asking the hard questions and getting to the heart of what matters about your mental, spiritual, financial, and physical well being. In my quest to find wholeness, wellness, and end the 40 years of obesity that ravaged my body, I found that it was my own stories that were keeping me trapped in processed food addiction. Once I started asking the right questions, those same stories led to brand new consciousness, mindfulness, and agency. Each month on Get the Backstory Live, we take on the tough questions so you can find the healing, hope, and transformation hidden in your story. Good evening and welcome to Get the Backstory Live. I am your host, Michelle Petties. I am so happy that you have joined us for the broadcast today, the broadcast tonight. The broadcast tonight is so very special and so very important. It's August, right? It's August. It's the back to school time. Kids are getting ready to go back to school. Parents are getting their kids ready to go back to school. So much is happening. And that is what our conversation is going to be about tonight. And I just want to kind of give you all some context. If this is your first time joining in, I have my own backstory as to why we even do this broadcast. For 40 years, from the time I was 20 years old until the time I was 60, I struggled with food addiction and obesity. And finally, in 2018, 2019, I figured out the strategies and the secrets and what I needed to know to get my life back, to understand how to eat for the right reasons, to understand that what we eat is about nutrition, nourishment, and energy. And that is all. And once we get clear on that, there's so much freedom, there's so much peace, there's so much joy, there's so much confidence that is available to you once you're clear. But sometimes these messages about why we eat, what we eat, get confused. Right, they get all messed up, and we see this in the rising obesity rate. Right, this obesity and food addiction, it is surely a complex issue. It's a complex issue. I'm not a doctor, but I have doctors on the show, right? But I am somebody that overcame that, and I want to bring these conversations every month with somebody that can offer some support, whether it's somebody that is on their own personal journey, because we need support as we're on this journey, taking the first step, right? We have a lot of weight to lose, or we want to make a lot of changes. If we're in the middle of our journey, people always show the before and after pictures. People don't talk about that stuff that happens in the middle, or even if you've gotten to the what you might think is the end of your journey, but we know this journey never ends. We always need motivation. We always need inspiration. We always need support. And as adults, we need it. But children, our precious babies need it as well. And there's so much in the news that is concerning to me personally about childhood obesity, right? And the issues that children are facing around their weight. And if it's an issue that the child is facing, then it's an issue that the parents are facing, that the family is facing. And this is something we have got to get in front of it because lives are at stake. And knowing that, the conversation tonight is super important. It's August, back to school. We want to just bring the conversation and focus on our kids. I want to introduce you to one of my favorite people. She's been on, I have interviewed her before, but not when we did Get the Backstory. We were doing, the show was then a brand new take. But Lafaya Mitchell, let me tell you about this woman. And gather the family around for the conversation that we're going to have tonight, because this is important. Lafaya Mitchell is a licensed marriage and family therapist, known as a LMFT, and the author of the Lafaya Way book series, which offers strategies for working with hypersensitive individuals. Her approach is designed to improve relationships within families, schools, and communities by enhancing understanding and connection with individuals who experience social challenges. The series includes tools and techniques that help parents, caregivers, and professionals better support children with ADHD, autism, and other sensitivities. Lafaya has also developed a program called Parents Empowering Parents, known as PEP, based on her books, providing parents with practical strategies to reduce behavioral issues and promote harmony at home. Let's welcome, I welcome Lafaya Mitchell. Come on up here, Lafaya. Let's get this conversation going. Let's get
Hello.
this conversation going.
I'm so happy to be here, Miss Michelle.
It is so good to see you. Oh my goodness, it is. And so as I am reading your bio, there the conversation tonight, right, is about how we can help how we can help parents help their overweight children. And even though there's nothing specific in this bio that talks about that, it's in here. You're talking about we're talking about sensitivities, right? We're talking about
Hmm.
all these social challenges that show up in these in the bodies of these little people that don't know how to manage it. They don't know what's going on.
Right,
So
right.
I want to jump into that conversation, but what I want you to do is introduce yourself to the audience beyond this bio that I read. Yeah, tell them the stuff that I didn't tell them.
Oh man, there's so much stuff. Which stuff? But anyway, okay. All right, guys. So a little bit about me. And I know you heard my name, Lafaya Mitchell, already, right? Different kind of name. I grew up myself hypersensitive, which is what caused me to really like. It's my passion to work with others who are sensitive, who are having sensitivities in all areas. And when we talk about social challenges, those social challenges include those things that the kids have to go through to try to fit in. And that's including the things that they think that they want to eat, right? So they're not going to eat the vegetables and the fruits because if they do that, then they're considered kind of square, right? Or nerds or whatever people call them nowadays, because I'm getting old. But but yeah, so there's so much there that kids will feel pressured to do, and it's important for us to teach them a new way, right? And as far as especially dealing with like weight management issues, okay, the four steps of that. She mentioned the Lafayette way. Okay, the four steps within that book is not just for like managing behaviors, parents managing behaviors, but it's actually teaching the kids how to manage some of their own behaviors. So it's giving the parents kind of a guideline of what to teach the kids so that they can learn how to do better for themselves. And I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more, but within the four steps, there's like it's like the recipe to doing the things in life that you truly mean for yourself, like really living according to your truest intentions. So that's like my super passion. I have so much more. I'm raising three little girls right now. I've already raised three. They're adults now, but I have a 32, 22, and 20-year-old. So I've had a chance to raise them in that particular
Wait,
little
wait.
generation.
Wait a minute? Did you say you have a 32-year-old?
Oh yes, that's my baby. That's my oldest baby.
Wait. Yeah. You look like you're 32 yourself. I mean, do you? I
Let's
mean,
go. 32.
but I'm saying you look fabulous, Afaya, right? And
Thank
you look like you got a lot of energy. So I'm guessing you're eating right. I'm guessing you're sleeping right. I'm guessing you're getting some movement in. You're doing the things that you need to do to take care of yourself, so that you can take care of. Looks like a whole bunch of stuff that you got going on that you need to take care of.
Yes, now. Yeah, now. Because that wasn't always my story either.
Hmm.
So,
Okay. All right.
but yeah, there's been a lot to it. Yeah.
Okay, so let's do that. Let's kind of unpack, a situation. Parents come to you and they say, I'm worried about how my what my child is eating. I'm worried about that. What what's the next step? What happens after that?
Okay, so the first thing I like to teach them is really work towards not being judgmental of that child, of just learning, not saying, okay, let everything go, but you have to really focus in on if there is any judgment at all, especially with a sensitive kid, they're going to feel every single piece of that. So that's one of the first things you need to work on, is to try to figure out, okay, what is my issue? Because most of the time when parents have an issue with their kid, it's typically coming from an issue that comes from them. So it's if it's a fear of, what they're eating, a fear that they may, end up, obese, wherever, not eating enough. All of these come from past experiences from the parent.
Okay. So the issue, the first thing is for the parent to look within. Is that is
Yes.
that, is that like physician heal thyself? Kind of.
Well, well, yes, yes, and then, it's really important, because if when they start doing some of that soul searching, it really, that's like the first step to helping them to not be as judgmental, because we're quick to say, oh, you're doing this and you're doing that and you shouldn't be doing this, and being hard on often our kids and others and ourselves, right? But when
Mhm,
we really take a step back and we understand, okay, well, my challenge is this, my worry is this. So
mhm,
then it's not so much the judgment that you're coming to the child with, as much as if there are concerns, you're actually coming with those authentic concerns and something to teach them. Like, so you're looking to, right? You're looking
mhm,
to teach, right?
mhm,
Discipline, disciple, to teach. We
mhm,
want to teach our
mhm,
kids, not judge our kids. When we judge
mhm,
them, we seem against them, they're going to go against us. But when
mhm,
we can say, hey, babe, these are my concerns for you.
mhm.
And so, let's try something new for you, then they're more inclined to see that we're on their side and comply with what we're asking.
So teach, first thing, teach not judge.
Yes.
Teach not judge. There are two. There's a situation that comes to mind. I was talking to a friend of mine who obviously knows what I do, and she said, I'm really worried about my daughter because my daughter is obese, and I'm worried about that. And and I said, well, how much sugar is she eating? No, 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 I didn't even say that. I said, I don't know how much sugar is she eating. I said, well, how much sugar are you feeding her? That's what, talk about being judgmental, right? And so she said, she said, well, I try to keep the sugar out of the house, and my husband and I have talked about it. It's not me, it's him. And you know, we were working on this, and he went to the store, and he came back with a dozen donuts. And 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 I said, this is her talking to me. I told you we're trying to, deal with the sugar thing. Why did you buy a dozen donuts? And he said, well, I guess he was at the donut shop. He bought one, and then they had a dozen on sale, and so he brought them because they were on sale. So, there's a lot tied up in that scenario, right?
Yes.
So if you unpack that? Can you unpack that a
Yes.
little bit for me?
Yes, I would love to. I would love to. Okay. So now this is the part that we didn't get into, is talking about just kind of those family dynamics too, right? Because you have one parent that may be concerned about the weight, another parent who may not be. They're fine, right? And or you may have both parents honestly in agreement that, hey, yeah, they're getting a little larger than what's healthy for them, or whatever their reasoning may be, right? And sometimes you have to be careful as a parent, that some of those things also come in where parents get embarrassed when their kids are a little larger. These are things, that the hidden things that we don't talk about, right? So, like, really deep down inside, if we were living in accordance with our truest intentions, right, we would be looking at things like health and safety and things like that. But at the surface, we are often dealing with a whole bunch of other stuff, right? Like, It's embarrassing. People are asking me, they're giving me funny looks when they see my child. I feel uncomfortable around my child. Things like that come up too. But sorry, going into unpacking that situation with them, when you have a partner who is doing things that is really against what it is that you probably both really want for your child, because we all want our children to be happy. And usually, being obese, you're not going to be very happy, because you're not going to feel as well as you should often, and you're not going to like often. And I'm not saying this is for everybody, but often they're not going to look like the way they look themselves. They may get teased by others, they may get judged often by others, so it doesn't feel good. So as parents, we want our children to feel good. As a parent and co-parent, you want to find ways to kind of, how do we find our place of agreement, as opposed to, again, I'm going to talk to that judgment thing, as opposed to even judging her husband, right, for his silly behavior, his behavior that we both agreed that we would like for her to him whatever to lose a little weight. And here you are with a dozen donuts, right? As opposed to judging, now you have to go into those things that create more of that sense of connection with your husband, even though that's like, it feels counterintuitive. But you want to go to him, you want to say, babe, okay, we talked about, bringing less sugar in the house, and, here are the, here's a dozen donuts. And he's, oh, well, there's a big sale and blah, blah. And you can say to him, okay, but, we both want the same thing. So even when there's a sale, it's really, really important to kind of just keep yourself, even though I know it's tempting, keep yourself from still bringing things like that into the house, because we both want what's best for our daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to create, and this is so important, create those connections where you're able to say, hey, we both want the same thing. Hey, I'm on your side, we're both on our daughter's side, let's make this work. That's how you deal with those. Because when you go into those, like that judgment and that criticism and all of that, what happens with the other person is it feels like you're against them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their ego
Mm-hmm.
comes up, and they're like, now they have to kind of defend themselves. But it was a sale, and
They
things
get
like that.
tense. They get tense and can't
Yes.
and can't be involved in the conversation. They can't even hear it because of the tension, right?
And now
Right.
they're blocked. Now they're
Mm-hmm.
blocked to, and see what happens is we unintentionally create these blockages to them doing what is best for everybody too, right? So now we have this judgment. Now they have to defend themselves, they defend their ego, even though they don't even believe in what it is they're doing, if they really
Mm-hmm.
thought about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you can kind of move all of that stuff out of the way, then all of a sudden now you have a pathway, right? And you're giving them the pathway. You're saying to them, hey, we both want the same thing. Let's make this work. Let's create a situation. Okay, I know you're accustomed to buying the things that are on sale, babe, but hey, I need you to really fight yourself on it. If you need to get on 12, then if you have a place to take them, to donate them or something, then go do that, right? Give
If you
solutions.
just have to buy them, right? If you just have to buy them.
Just buy them and don't bring them home. Take them over to another space, and things like that.
But part of this conversation, part of the things that you're saying, what's coming up for me, is that I am really in this lane of people having awareness and consciousness about what food really is and what its purpose really is. And once people get clear that it's for nutrition, nourishment, and energy, and that's all, right? And that we live in this society that really programs us to eat for pleasure, to eat for entertainment, to eat because it's an activity, to eat because of a treat. It's a treat, not because it's good for us. So we have to unlearn all that stuff to
Yes.
eat for the right reasons and fight the messaging that wants us to eat when we're not hungry, right? To treat food as celebration, to treat it as a party.
Right.
um, and so from a parent standpoint, even though don't have children, I can see, you want to, they enjoy it because it's sweet. So you want to give them some joy, but you're not looking at the fact that inside that, I guess, instant joy, that food is really harmful, because they don't tell us that, right? The fast food industry, the snack food industry, the sugar lobby, they don't tell us how harmful this stuff is. They just talk about the pleasure and the fun and how good it tastes. And parents have to unpack that, right? They and go
Yes.
to what's good for their children. But my here's my question. I see you got a ooh, but here's my question, especially around this thing around food, is being able to provide for your family and care for your family is, I think, is probably at the heart of what is important to every parent. And for any parent to ever hear their child say, "Mom, I'm hungry, Daddy, I'm hungry," even though there's food in, it must come to this thing where they think, if my child is ever hungry, if my child ever wants for anything, if they ever want for anything and it's within my power to get it, then I'm judging myself as a bad parent. And they don't necessarily see the long-term consequences of giving into this immediate kind of gratification, right? Because this comes at me, oh, they're hungry. I gotta let me get them something right away, right? They never they I don't want them to experience what maybe I was never hungry, but my grandmother talked about being hungry, or my great grandparents talked about being hungry, and that fear lives in people, that I'll be judged for being a bad parent because I'm out in public and my child says I'm hungry. you know.
Yes. Yes.
So can you speak to any of that? Would you speak to that?
Oh my goodness.
And
Yes.
your
Yes. Yes.
ooh,
Yes.
and your
Oh,
ooh that you had.
I know. Yes. Okay, so when as you were talking about this actually took me into steps 1 and 2. Remember, I told you I knew we'd get into the conversation. We get the steps in there, but when we're talking about the Lafaya way and kind of calming some of that emotional stuff, that animal brain stuff that happens for us, that is not based in complete and total logic. We are just feeling into this. We're reacting to a feeling in us, right? This need to be that good parent, this need not to be a failure as a parent, this need to make sure that we feel good and our kids feel good, and associating feeling good with things like sweets and things like that, right? And on the opposite end, we'll feel deprived. We'll feel punished if we have the wrong association with food. We'll feel punished if we're not able to get to those sweets and things like that, right? And so when we're talking about the steps, when I'm really thinking to like step 2, right? Understanding the real truth. That's where what it is that you're teaching really kicks in. Understanding what food is really for.
Mm-hmm.
You said, "Oh, give me the nutrition, energy, and what else? What did you say?"
Nourishment, nourishment,
Nur- Okay,
nutrition, nourishment, energy. Mm-hmm.
nutrition, nourishment, energy. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
when we understand, when we are able to keep bringing ourselves to that real truth, understand the real truth with all thy getting understanding, right? Then that helps to calm down some of that fiery stuff that's happening in us emotionally, right? And we're able to stave off kind of those just reactions, right? Him buying those things for sale was a reaction that he
Mm-hmm.
had. Ooh, I don't have to only get one. I can 12 means so much more happiness, right?
Right.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. More is better.
Right.
More is better.
Right. And so, but being able to kind of help and move and help people to learn how to move. Okay, wait a minute. If we stop and think about lots of things, and this is including how we think about food, and things like that. We want to calm down emotions around food. If we are able to take in the steps and understand, okay, first and foremost, step 1, I know I'm moving around, but step 1, find your calm. Why step 1, find your calm? Because your system is not calm when you are doing irrational things, right? Your system is doing all manner of stuff that doesn't make any logical sense for what your goals are, right? And then you think about step 2, understanding the real truth, right? When you're trying to even just let's work the first two. Work the first 2 steps and keep people who, especially when they're doing weight management stuff, whether it be with themselves or to their kids, they're teaching, hey babe, I know that it feels like you really want this, like staying in the refrigerator all day long when you don't want to be obese, okay, is problematic behavior, right? So that sense that you have to be there, just let me open it and see what's in there, and all those things, you have to figure out how to find your calm around that. How do I find a way to maybe get myself to find other ways to distract myself. Every time I can have set times that I can go look in the refrigerator, okay? And then for every other time I have an impulse, then maybe I'm doing something else that's healthy or productive for me to do, right? And so anything, like if you're a writer, I'm going to sit down and write, try to work on writing a page. Every time that impulse hits me, until that impulse stops trying to come in and take over, because I'm too productive when it hits me. And if it
Yes.
doesn't stop coming in, I'm real productive.
Right, right, right.
You know?
I love that. I love that, Lafaya. I am going to use that because as part of my whole program, I teach healing through reading, writing, and storytelling. I do the writing workshops to support people that are on the road to manage food in a different way. And what a wonderful idea is that, okay, give yourself that you're going to look in the refrigerator three times a day. That's all, 3 times a day. Any other time outside of those 3 times, instead of looking in the refrigerator, what you're going to do is write. That is worth everything I paid you to come on the show today.
Priceless.
But it's priceless. It's priceless. It's priceless. It's priceless. It's brilliant. It really is. I love that. And I want to go back to the real truth and finding your calm. Like
Yes.
one of the strategies that I really get people to lean into when it comes to just deciding, not even deciding, but feeling like they want to eat, right? Because it's not always really a conscious decision. It's just
Right.
this I think I want something, right? Is it? I coach people, before you put anything in your mouth, ask yourself 3 questions. If this food is not going to give me the bite that I say I want, why am I eating it? That's the first question. The second question is, why this food now? Why this particular food now? So we need those 2 questions. And then the third question is, am I hungry or am I something else?
Mm.
Those 3 questions before everything you eat. Right? Because what it does, it creates some space. It gives you some space between the thought that you want to eat and the actual action. and
Yes.
and that's when those questions can give you some calm, right? When you start to look at what the answers might be. and
Yes.
and then when you say, am I hungry or am I something else, that gets you to your real truth. What do I
Yes.
want? What do I really want? What do I really want? and
Yes.
being a, and being able to put yourself where you can just like sit in the discomfort of whatever those answers might be. And I say sit in the discomfort because, you know discomfort kind of has a bad rap, right? Right. But in reality, if we are prepared to sit in some discomfort, sit in some confusion, that means we're positioning ourselves to grow. We're
Yes.
positioning ourselves to get on the other side of that and learn something. Because you talked about teaching, right? You talked about
Yes.
teaching. When that discomfort, when that confusion happens, that means that we're trying to learn something new and different to move ourselves into another place where we can grow. So that calm and real truth, those 2 steps really really speak to me on this one.
Yes, so you're stretching yourself. And now, okay, because now I'm getting into the steps, and people are like, well, what are steps 3 and 4? But finding your calm, right? First and foremost. Now, there's a strategy behind it, and you spoke to the strategy behind understanding the real truth. So, oh, that's why I love you, because we've always
Yes,
been like
yes,
right
yes.
there, like on the same, right? But when you're looking towards find and understanding the need now, right, to find your calm, because it's so important, because we have to understand our eating to be an emotional thing, right? And eating, the subject of eating can be so confusing, because we need to, for our
Right,
life, for our
right,
health, right?
right,
Because it's
right.
necessary. It's a required thing. It's not like other, drugs out there that you can avoid and stay away from. Food, you have to deal with that. So there's no going cold turkey on food. Right? And so, unless you want to go real cold turkey. No, no, no. Anyway, but no. So it's very confusing, and when all these feelings come up, it's so like everything's been disrupted and confused in our systems, because as little babies, as young babies, we know that the body, when it's hungry, it cries. That's what it needs. There's a feeling of distress, right? When you don't get that, when you don't get fed. But it gets warped into something else due to either, how food was treated as we were growing up, what we learned about food and all that. Everything gets disrupted. So then that same emergency system is activated even when we're not necessarily in physical need as we
Mm-hmm.
were when we were a baby. But
Mm-hmm.
our minds
Mm-hmm.
and our bodies are sure doing that same wham wham crying when we
Mm-hmm.
feel like we want something though. Okay.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
really tapping in and paying really close attention to that need, and also understanding that when you cannot, and this is a cannot, when you cannot allow yourself to hurt yourself anymore, okay? When you refrain, I refuse to contribute to being a person that I don't want to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you
Mm-hmm.
now cannot have these things that your body's screaming and saying that it wants, okay? It's important to, when you're working on finding your calm, really separate yourself from that feeling, right? What we tend
Yes.
to do is we tend to personalize that feeling, right? We tend to take it on and think, then it's like a why me? Why can't I have these things? Why do I
Right.
have to be
Right.
deprived? It's nobody else in the world, right? Nobody else in the world has to go through this like I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the lies that our mind tells us, right? When we're
Right.
trying to get to
Addiction.
that
That's
thing we want,
addiction.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, but it's really important to depersonalize from those emotions, to really go. That's where understanding the real truth can take you. Asking those key questions, right? If this
Mm-hmm.
is not something that's going to make me feel better about my body, why am I eating it?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, am I hungry or am I something else? Oh my god, huge, Michelle. But huge. Asking these questions can take you into a place where you're able to separate yourself from those
Yes.
emotions. And
Yes.
then you're able to move into step 3, which is responding in alignment with your truest intentions, right?
Ooh.
Now see, all the 4 steps, they work together, right? They're like the ingredients of for lack of a better word, like the ingredients of a cake, right? You need all your ingredients. And if you're missing some in there, you're gonna have you a flat, nasty, ugly, something kind of cake that you don't want, right? and so, and by the way, I brought up cake, so I'm sorry to those of you out there that are not having cake right now. But there are very healthy cakes that you can have out there, by the way. If you're focused. My daughter knows how to make a very great
Yeah.
paleo cake. But anyway, off subject, but back on subject.
Uh-huh.
But responding in alignment with your truest intentions is something that you really want to work towards. What is my core goal, right? That's some of those understand the real truth questions.
Mm-hmm.
What's my real goal here, right? And is this in alignment with my true goal, or is this going to take me away from what I truly want, right? And what would I say to someone else who was trying to take me off track of what it was I was really trying to do? Some hater out there trying to tell me, well, you might well go on and have that because life ain't gonna be good for you anyway. What would, if you had a hater out there like that? What would you say to that person? Like, no, you're not about to mess me up,
Right.
right? Right. So when you start working on responding in alignment with your truest intentions, then these are the attitudes that you want to take on. And when you're feeling like you want to grab that midnight snack, and no, you were hungry, you ate, you're
Right.
good, you don't need
Right.
that midnight. But now
Right.
it's like, okay, and you ask yourself those questions, you're like, okay, well, you know what would I say if somebody were trying to force feed me this and I had no desire for it? Okay, because the real me doesn't have desire for it, because the real me
Yes.
knows that it does not want to look a certain way,
Yes. Yeah.
right? So then
Lafaya,
you
we
start,
are we are we are we are in alignment on that.
oh yeah,
But that thing about desire, that the desire is the thing that is at the root of this whole issue, is what you have desire for. Is that all the snack food companies, the fast food companies, the junk food companies, they are masters at creating desire in us for that which is not good for us.
yes,
And we have to get the consciousness so that we can create desire. That's why I teach writing, so that we can create desire for the life, the health, the strength that we really want, that is bigger than these external messages. that our
yes,
internal that our internal messaging is stronger and more powerful and more compelling than our external messaging, because that stuff is always going to be happening. So we'll always have to be rewriting that and giving ourselves new reasons, right? Giving ourselves new reasons to desire what we want for ourselves, not what they want for us, right?
Yes.
That
Which is our money, because that's what they want.
it,
They want our
exactly,
money.
which
And
is
the
which is
more we desire their product, the more of our money they're going to get.
exactly. That's
Right?
exactly right. It's about getting conscious about that and staying conscious about that. And I love what you talk. I love that you're talking about separating the feeling from the food. Because have you seen my TED talk? You know, I did a TED talk about this. So you're gonna
You
have to.
know I watched that TED Talk. You know I had to watch that TED
Oh, that's
Talk.
right.
You are too
That's right.
good.
Because you commented.
Okay.
You were the first person to comment, or one of the first people, right?
There
That's
was
right.
no way I was missing that when you sent me that message. I was like,
I'm
oh,
sorry.
okay.
I'm sorry you did. I mean, that question is kind of like an automatic question for me.
Sorry,
You
sorry. I
did.
didn't mean to be
You
offended.
did.
No.
But 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 that piece about separating our feeling from the food, that is constant work all the time, because this environment is constantly trying to connect feelings to these unhealthy foods. And I want to go back to what you said about, we need to eat. I mean, we need to eat, and we need to be hungry. Hunger is a good thing. Hunger tells us that it's time to eat, that we need
Yes.
nutrition, nourishment, and energy. But here's the
Yes.
difference. There is a difference between real food and processed food. The real food, we have to eat that to heal and to live and be healthy. So that's fresh fruits and vegetables. That's good quality protein. That it is the processed foods that masquerade as real food that send us into health decline. The stuff
Yes.
that we think is food that's not food. The stuff that's filled with processed sugar, with processed grains, with processed flour, with preservatives, and things that we cannot even pronounce. It is that stuff that we do that doesn't do a body good.
That's
So
right. That's
when our
right.
bodies are saying that it is hungry, it wants real food. It wants the food that is going to heal us. But we give it Cheetos and a Pepsi,
Yes.
and,
Yes.
and we can't eat enough Cheetos and Pepsi to satisfy our nutritional needs,
Our real needs, what our
our
body
real need.
really needs. And when we don't satisfy what our body really needs, our body's going to continue to crave and stay hungry, right?
Yes,
That's why we can't
yes.
eat enough chips. That's why we can't eat enough cakes. That's why we can't eat enough. We may feel this sense of, and it's not even like the nice kind of full. We may feel like overwhelmed, right?
Mm-hmm,
With fillers in our bodies, because
mm-hmm,
that's exactly what we're doing. We're filling
mm-hmm.
our body, right? So we're feeling overwhelmed with that. And then in the next second, we can be eating a whole new bag of chips,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm,
But it's very important to remember that it takes the same work it took to create like those pathways to accepting those processed foods and those no good foods, right? As that's what's supposed to be what we're taking in to satisfy us. We have to start doing the opposite. We have to create new pathways to show our bodies and what it's really about. Like
yes.
taking in those natural foods, taking in those good foods. I'll tell you, one of the things that happened for me personally, okay, is that I crave, because it was a part of my childhood, to be deprived, right, of certain things. So I thought, oh, since we can't have these things and everybody else can, they get all the pizza, they get all the chips, they get all the this and that and the other. So I thought when we weren't getting those things that we were being deprived. I was sad even, right?
Mm-hmm,
And that carried into my adulthood. So now when I would get into a place where I would try to eat healthy, I'm like, man, I just want to be able to have a cookie or a cake or a something or this or ice cream or this and that and the other. And the truth of the matter is that because that's so strong in me, I had to find pathways to be able to have some of the things that I really like, right, in a healthy way.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So I learned about things like paleo cookies. I
mm-hmm.
learned that you can make things with almond flour and sweeteners that are natural and other, and we're using maple syrup from the actual tree, is created,
Mm-hmm.
there, and
Mm-hmm.
all these things happen naturally, and I can have some of those things that I think I really want when I need to feel like I need a crunch. carrots crunch real good.
Mm-hmm.
And that crunch becomes very satisfactory when
Mm-hmm.
you create the neural pathways to make it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to cut up some cucumbers and squeeze some lemon on them,
Mm-hmm.
and do things and then have that crunch and be like, oh, okay, shoot, I'm not missing anything.
Right.
Then all of a
Right.
sudden you start trying to engage with that other stuff, and you're like, ooh, I don't even need this. Like this is unnecessary because I try, because it's in there, right? I'll be like, ooh, there's this. I just want to try one real cookie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll take a bite, and I'm like, this this wasn't worth my
Yeah.
chewing.
Right.
And now and now I
It's
spit
not
it
all
out,
that.
and I go
It's not
find
all that. It ain't all that. It ain't all that.
right. And so creating new pathways. These are the ways that you start to learn how to respond in alignment, right, with your truest intentions. My truest intentions are to not feel hungry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if my truest intention is not to feel hungry, then eating chips and eating all that processed food is not going to help. Sugar filled stuff is never going to help me, because sugar and all that kind of stuff is created it's set up. All that stuff in there is set up to keep me addicted, so that
Yes.
I'm craving it more and more,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So then hunger becomes distorted.
Yes. Hunger becomes a story. Oh wow. You are so right about that. Because these big companies, Lafaya, you know this like I do, they spend billions of dollars to make the stuff addictive.
Mhm.
And people get trapped, they get sucked in because they try to treat it like weight loss. And it's not weight loss, it's addiction. And addiction changes the brain. Addiction
Yes.
changes the brain, and people end up feeling like I'm a failure, right? I don't have any willpower, I don't have any self-discipline. And it's not any of those things. It's just that your brain has been altered by the stuff you call food. Not even by
Yes.
food. It's by the stuff you call food. And we're being hoodwinked.
Yes.
We're being hoodwinked. So in the time in the we're getting to the top of the hour. I can't believe that our time is going away. But let's kind of come back to parents and the conversations that parents have with children, and the tools that parents can have to support their children. But before we go, that one thing that I want to talk about is this. I know that this issue of childhood obesity is a big thing. And when I so much of the stuff I talk about is from my own childhood, and what I see and what I feel and what I know. And one thing that I hear, and this is even what the direction I'm going on my next book, is that this link between obesity and food addiction and childhood sexual trauma, that it is so huge, and it's something that people don't talk about. This is thing that's kind of under the cover.
Yeah.
And I know I dealt with it, when I was a kid, right? That's when stuff weight started to pile on for me. And when you're a kid, you don't know how to process it. But I mean, what can parents be on the lookout for? Because we want to keep our kids safe. We want to protect them. But when stuff shows up in our bodies on the outside, it is a manifestation of there's something that's going wrong on the inside. And it may be that, it might not be that. It could be some other kind of trauma. It could be some other kind of pain or discomfort that the child is experiencing that they can't even identify or put a name on, and they don't have the tools to deal with it, right? So can you talk about that a little bit?
It's really important because you're right. There could be so many different, on an emotional level, causes for a child, but I think things to be on the lookout for would be just, especially when we're thinking about things like just potential sexual abuse. You really want to be on the lookout for like a really quick, right? A really quick turnover where at first, your child was more kind of eating in a way that wasn't causing them to gain a bunch of weight, and then all of a sudden you kind of just notice they're just really growing and getting larger and larger in a very, very in a fast way, right? So then, as a parent, you you want to check in with your kids. You want to ask them, and you want to say, hey, before you weren't as focused on food as you are now. Is there something that's bothering you? Right? Is there something that has happened that's kind of caused you to more turn to food, because it feels more like you're using it for comfort than you are for nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Can you say that? Can you say that like that to a kid? I mean,
Yes.
will they okay.
Yeah.
Go
And
ahead.
and it depends the age of the kid. So any kid, like I would say, able to use logic 6 and above, right? You can really go to and talk to in that way. Now, if they're younger than that, then you may want to just check in with their doctor even. For the younger kids, you can say, hey, my baby's not able to really communicate with me in any clear way, and I'm concerned because their eating habits have become really strange to me, right? Or really over the top, or whatever, right? But usually especially with like sexual abuse and such, this tends to show up a little later. It doesn't really show up as early, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
the
Mm-hmm.
overeating the
Mm-hmm.
overeating too, because the overeating does is it creates, it's like a layer of protection, right?
Yes.
It
Mm-hmm.
creates, and it's unintentional. The kids aren't out there thinking, oh, if I'm bigger, then maybe people might leave me alone. There's none of that happening logically, but emotionally, that is very much happening,
Mm-hmm.
right? This can cushion me against someone, maybe, right? Then
Mm-hmm.
someone maybe trying to handle me in the wrong way, right? Now that's kind of looking at the sexual abuse piece. And now let's look at some of the other areas, because there's there could be self-esteem, there's all kinds of reasons that kids and people comfort eat. It could be not feeling loved, not feeling accepted, not feeling right, not feeling these things. And so as a parent, you just want to make sure that if you're seeing behaviors that are concerning to you, that you're checking in with them. Like, hey, are you feeling like, are you feeling heard? Like, are you feeling like I spend enough time with you? Talk to me a little bit, because I'm noticing that you're kind of getting into some of these behaviors, and I really want to make sure that you don't do things like, to hurt yourself, that we can work on now, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's really, as a parent, bringing these things up to their awareness, right? When it's not like, like where there's sex abuse issues, that's a whole other animal. But
Mm-hmm.
bringing some of things out to the forefront. For some kids, it could just be as simple as, hey, I've noticed your behaviors have changed. If you have that certain kind of kid that's like, well, no, they haven't, and like they want to prove you wrong, then sometimes you get a shift just there. Like, no, I haven't
Mm-hmm.
noticed any changes. Like, you don't know what you're talking about, whatever. Then
Right.
you can see shifts just in that alone. But sometimes they will talk to you a little bit and tell you, hey, well, yeah, I don't feel like, you could ask them, is there something happening at school? Is there something happening that I haven't asked you about, that I don't know about, right? And this all comes through what, creating that relationship. The more that our kids feel, so it's also about like being proactive and building that relationship with your kids, so that they feel like when they talk to you, they're not being judged,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the way
Mm-hmm.
that they feel does matter, because that can happen often too, is people will teach their kids that the way they feel doesn't matter. It's not intentional, right? It's like, but that, oh, get over it kind of attitude. and
Right.
and 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 I hear it a lot, honestly. Parents say that, these kids growing up now are just a bunch of wusses, and all that. And it's really important to, I don't want to over exaggerate on either side of it. Some kids could use a little more, strengthen it up, right? But at the same time, it's also, there's a reason why they are how they are too, right? There are things that we have allowed them to be exposed to that teaches them that that's the way they're supposed to respond and react to things,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so being accountable and saying, hey, even if it's like they're watching so many depressing TV shows, or they're watching a bunch of stuff where the kids get everything in the world, and every day of life is Disneyland, and now this kid is depressed because why is my life not like Disneyland? Because
Right.
that's the way
Right.
it's supposed to be, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
as a parent, recognizing things like that, and not, like I said, I'm not saying be over the top or even be mean about it. But if your child appears depressed or whatever, because they're feeling like they lack, then maybe it's that we limit these kind of things that they're exposing themselves to. Like, baby, you seem really depressed. Like, you seem like you're really unhappy with things, what's going on, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think what we're gonna do is maybe we're gonna cut out so much of this thing here or that thing here to see if maybe you're feeling a little happy, a little better, a little more happy. Maybe get you in some sports or something, right? But these are things that parents want to just check in and like not just leave kids so often to their own devices. And when I say
Right.
devices, I mean devices, all the electronic
Right.
devices out there and everything, their own thoughts and everything else that can be no good for them if they're being filled with a bunch of like things that aren't real, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
So
So important. So it's like check in with your kids. Like,
big time. Create the relationship and check in with them. And when you check in with them, don't go straight to judgment or tell them that it doesn't make sense for them to feel the way that they feel.
mm-hmm.
Say things like, okay, well then, be a problem solver. Say
Mm-hmm.
things like, okay, well then let's work towards helping you not to feel that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that from what I've been saying, these things right here are likely giving some messages that are going to keep you unhappy because life doesn't work that way. So let's try to cut a little bit of that out, right? A little bit of the
Yes.
social media out, where you're looking at these dream lives that aren't even real. None of it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
rarely is any of it real, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
things like that. And let's get you more engaged with maybe connecting with us and other people. And let's have a game night. If you feel like I don't spend any time with you, let's pick one day a week where we have a game night and you have my undivided attention, right? I want you to
Yes.
feel loved,
Yes.
things like that.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. But I want to shift for just 1 second. Um, I have been doing some work in schools in this area, in this community in schools program. And it's a federal program that supports certain schools in certain communities with extra support, right? And one of those areas is nutrition, right? For families in from underserved areas. And what the messaging that has become so important to me is that how, as much as there's a focus on food being for nutrition, nourishment, and energy, and we've been talking about it all this hour, it's nutrition, nourishment, and energy for your body, but it is nutrition, nourishment, and energy for your brains. What we eat, how our children eat, impacts cognition, it
Yes.
impacts memory, it impacts proficiency, it impacts performance, it impacts productivity. So all if we're not giving our kids the right nutrition, we're sacrificing, right, their sometimes their mental health and their brain function. If you
That's
want your
right.
kid to be smarter, you know let's feed them in a way that's smart. So can you just kind of talk about food and this connection to what happens in a child's brain and what happens in the child's mind and why that's so important?
Oh man, see that, and that's so key, right? If we can just think, just keep in mind, right? Garbage in, garbage out, right? So food, one of the is there much else in the world, honestly, that we are taking into our bodies, right? Other than food, what can we think of? Food, water, right? Right. So it's very important to take those things, those major things that are the primary things that we're putting into our bodies, and understanding that those things are being used and processed by our entire body. That's including our brains, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you can look at the body, and yes, physical health is very important, right? But mental health, that the health, brain health, right, equally as important, because without those things, you're not going to have the other, right? That body mind connection. So understanding
Mm-hmm.
that you
Our
want to
body
feed,
follows our brain.
yes. So understanding that if we're thinking in, like understanding the real truth, right, now responding in line with our truth intentions, right, and we want our kids to be able to think better, to feel better, to all those things, then we have to put better things into them, more pure thoughts, more pure foods, right? More pure thoughts, more pure entertainment was going into their eyes and ears, right? So when we're thinking about these, when we're trying to change things and do things that do the things that we mean to do to have our kids feel the way that we want them to feel, which is we want them to feel just happy. We want them joyful. We want them feeling, loved. We want them feeling, just nice, clean, right?
Mm-hmm.
Clean energy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you want that for your child, if you want them to be able to focus, if you want them to be able to respond in ways that make sense to you when you ask them to do things, right?
Right,
Then
right.
you have it's like you're giving them, not saying it's everything, but it's the biggest start you can give them is to put pure things in so that you get more pure things out.
Yep. Oh, pure things in, pure things out. That such great, great, great advice. Now, Lafaya, we're coming up to the end of the hour. I want to take some time. I know, we can just talk forever, right? We have got to do another show. We've got to do another show. Um, I want you to let people know how they can connect with you, how they can find you, and if they want to continue, right, get more of this knowledge that you're dropping, how to reach you. So let's give us all the details.
Okay, so if you want to, actually, the best way to find me, I think, is to go to lafayaway.com because I have my whole Lafaya Way. You guys see my first name up there, Lafaya Way,
Mhm.
WAY, all connected. .com has all of my information. It gives you links to all of my social media, so you can see me on Facebook. I've actually done a bunch of parenting lives there. Parents really enjoyed those. You can find me on Instagram under Lafaya_way. There's so many ways to find me, but if you go to lafayaway.com, it gives you links to everything. So I think that's I have a YouTube channel with lots of parenting advice. And you can also even just contact me, email me. If you have questions, I love to answer questions. I really do. And I love to, especially if you meet me on a social media platform and I can get like multiple people able to look at, because you're not the only person dealing with what it is you're dealing with.
Yes,
So
yes.
many, many parents can benefit from your questions. There are no silly questions. Okay. There's just, then don't be resistant to it. So many other parents out there need what it is that need answers to the questions that you have. So
Yes.
you're actually not only asking for yourself, but you're helping other people when you ask questions out there through, say, like Instagram and things like that. I'm not really much on LinkedIn, so if you don't want to reach me, go there. But everywhere else,
If you don't want to reach me, go to LinkedIn. All right. So Lafaya, and just drop the four steps on us.
okay,
When it
okay.
comes to the
So
recap.
the four steps are: find your calm, and there's stuff behind that, right? Don't personalize, and really seek to be proactive about what it is that set yourself up to be happy, right? Eat well, set yourself up to be happy.
Mhm.
So find your calm, understand the real truth is step two. Ask yourself those questions, those wonderful questions that Michelle has. They are perfect. Is this truly is this going to give me the body I want? Right? And am I hungry? That's so huge. Am I hungry or something else? Huge. Okay. Understand the real truth. Step three, respond in alignment with your truest intentions. When you can
Mhm.
find your calm and understand the real truth, it helps you to respond in alignment with your truest intentions. If you find yourself not responding in alignment with your truest intentions, then go back and say, oh shoot, what's my real truth? Okay, I need to calm down all this because this is emotional. This is not physical. This is not a need. This is an emotional, what I call an animal reptilian brain, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
This is a desire from there. And those desires right there, I might as well call those my haters because the haters want me to do bad and I
Mm.
want to do well. So I'm going to do the opposite of what those things are telling me to do. Right.
Right.
So
Right.
respond in line with your truest intentions. And the last step, which I didn't get to go over, but I'm going to share it anyway, is to recognize those small step improvements. That's the best you can do for yourself. As you're doing better, the more that what we focus in on is what we get more of.
Right.
Okay. So make sure that you're focusing in on, even if you make the smallest of improvements, give yourself that credit and say, oh, okay, I may not be perfect here, but I made this change right here. reinforce that change highly. Speak of yourself well because you've done that, because you made that transition, and then say, I've done this now, or I'm doing this now, and my next step is to do this. Okay. So if it's just cutting out chips, okay, then start with the chips and say, I am so proud of myself for cutting out chips. I'm going to have these carrots and learn how to enjoy these cucumbers and carrots so that, it takes I get the crunch without the addiction, right?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
I get the new addiction to feeling good. Now I'm addicted to feeling good.
Right. Right.
That's better, right? Things
Yeah.
like that. So recognize small step improvements, reinforce them highly. I call them my 3 R's, the 4-step. Recognize, reinforce, and repeat. Repeat, they're my re's. Repeat, recalibrate, read whatever you need to. But figure it out enough to keep flowing through those steps so that you're able to continue to keep yourself true to yourself, being good to yourself. The better you are to you, the better you're going to feel about you, the better your self-esteem is going to be, because now I am important enough to treat me well.
Oh,
Okay?
we got to go, Lafaya. It has
Yes,
been
ma'am.
wonderful. Thank you so much
Yes.
for all the steps. We're in.
Yes.
We're good.
Thank you for
We
the
appreciate
invite.
you.
I love you. Know I love talking to you.
What does it mean to get the backstory? It means asking the hard questions and getting to the heart of what matters about your mental, spiritual, financial, and physical well-being. In my quest to find wholeness, wellness, and end the 40 years of obesity that ravaged my body, I found that it was my own stories that were keeping me trapped in processed food addiction. Once I started asking the right questions, those same stories led to brand new consciousness, mindfulness, and agency. Each month on Get the Backstory Live, we take on the tough questions so you can find the healing, hope, and transformation hidden in your story.